We'll just give a few seconds to let people join us.
For those new to ACE webinars, we call this period of time coffee time with aSoft. But I see Erin has coffee. I have water. So, and then Ashley, are you empty-handed, Ashley?
I am. Yeah, I had water, but it's empty now. Our coffee time isn't so exciting this morning.
Not very coffee.
Yeah. Well, with that,
note that for a future webinar improvement.
Yeah,
everyone brings at least a coffee mug. Pretend people, come on.
Well, with that, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for ACE Basics. My name is Ashley Harker, and I'm a project manager at ACE Software. Today, you'll be hearing from Michael Bethy, a founder and the CEO of ACE Software, and Aaron Nolan, ACE product specialist. A few more details. This webinar is being recorded, and after this meeting, we will send you a link so that you can download the recording. All participants are muted, but if you'd like to ask a question about what you are seeing, please do so at any time. The Q&A button is at the bottom of your screen. With that, I'd like to turn the microphone over to our presenter. Michael, take it away.
Thank you, Ashley. Let me share my desktop here. Okay, can you see my desktop?
Yes.
Okay, so want to give my usual sort of intro. Let's talk about where we are in the discovery process. This webinar is ACE Basics. So if we look at our discovery process guide here, we have our little graph, kind of like what happens during the discovery process. We're right down here. We're right at the beginning. So the focus today is on users learning ACE, right? We're not really talking about anything that would be different or unique or specific to any particular business, right? So we're right at the beginning. I have a little bit of a disclaimer. This is new software. It's Thursday, May 18th, when we're hosting this webinar, and this software was released on Friday, March 10th. So it's only 2 months old. We still are finding, bugs and things. It's just part of the process. So for us to discover something unexpected is in fact expected. But that won't be the case for too much longer. Within another couple of months, we'll be past that sort of, new software launch phase where we tend to find the majority of, problems associated with any new version of software. And we're all users of software. We get how that process works. With those two little agenda items out of the way, I do want to say that though this is ACE Basics, and I imagine from one perspective, this could be considered the least interesting of our webinars. This is actually the most interesting from my perspective. This is one of my favorite webinars to host. And the reason for that is that this is sort of our secret sauce. Nothing we're going to see today is the sort of thing that decision makers are going to look at and say, yes, let's do it. Let's buy this software. But everything we're going to see today is it's part of what makes ACE special. And it's part of what gives the decision makers ultimately what they want in the end. It's part of what helps the decision makers achieve their objectives. In order to have good data, in order to make decisions from good data, in order to have automated operations, et cetera, you need to have software that everyday users love. You need to have software that everyday users, the people who are charged with execution in your organization, perceive as an ally, not as an enemy. If that's not the case, those decision makers are never going to achieve their goals. And when you look at the statistics, the failure rate for ERP implementations is really quite high. If you ask me why that is, there are some identifiable things, but specific things that you can mitigate. But a large part of it is that the end users, the people who have to actually use the software, as opposed to, let's say, reading a report or looking at a dashboard, they hate it. And they don't use the software. For that reason, they don't use the software to its fullest extent. So today is an important webinar. These features are important features, even though they are quote unquote basic. So with that little sales pitch out of the way, let's begin with the menu. When you log into aACE, this is the first thing that you're going to see is the menu, and your default module, whatever your default module is for your particular user group, may also appear. We'll get to that in a second, but this is what you're going to see. What you see in here in this little white space where my cursor is customizable. It's configurable depending on the user group. So system administrators will see what we see today. So anyone in a discovery team is going to see this menu or something close. It has every single menu option. Users who are watching this as part of a go live process, your menu has probably been constructed based on the modules that you're most likely to use. So you may only have 2 buttons on your menu, and that's okay. Doesn't mean you cannot access more of the system. It just means that your starting point is most likely to be those 2 or 3 menu options. And your system administrators have decided to give you a smaller menu just to make your life easier, because that's important. We don't want the software getting in your way. We want the software to be easy. So be aware that this menu is customizable and is dependent on your role in the organization. These root level menu options are typically folders. So if we look inside of one, we'll have additional menu options, and these little chevrons kind of tell us whether we can, go back or drill in deeper, right? Just like that. Clicking a menu option is going to open the module, and we'll come back to that in a second. Do want you to be aware that on the root is your help link. This is an invaluable link. We have hundreds and hundreds of guides in our knowledge base. I think at last count, how many did we have at last count, Erin?
I don't remember, honestly.
It was more than 400, I think.
There's a lot.
There's a lot, and we are updating it relentlessly. If you look at these guides, I mean, today's 18th. This was last night at 12:30. Good job. We are just, this is a couple days ago, right? There are new guides coming in. This is just all the time. So this is very much a living thing. It is very easy to search. So definitely play with it, and it's an important link to be aware of. The other most important link on the menu that people often aren't aware of is this zoom control. So all of these other things you'll kind of learn throughout the discovery process as needed. But this one is often forgotten. So I want to focus on this right at the beginning. When I open a module, so this is my list of companies, which is customers, vendors, etc. It's giving me sort of the default view, but how much screen real estate this takes up is a function of my resolution on my machine. This allows you to control the sizing of these windows. So if I select 75% and I open the same window, yes, you can have 2 of the same window, you can see that it is much smaller. If I set it to 150%, whew, big, right? So I'll change this back to 100%, and it only affects new windows. I'll change this back to 100% for today's webinar, but be aware of this, because depending on your preference, your eyesight, your screen resolution, the combination of those 3, et cetera, you may want to have a different zoom preference, and that setting is stored with your user record, so it will persist from session to session. All right, let's talk about opening a module. You already saw me do that. I'm gonna open a couple more here and just talk a little bit about what we're seeing. Let me see where else I want to go. Okay. So what you'll notice here is that all of these different modules are built off of the same template. So if you learn how to use one, you are effectively learning how to use the entire system. Everything beyond the system's conventions is just a function of terminology, specific processes, et cetera. But in terms of how you, the user, interact with the software, once you know how to interact with a single module, you've got 95% of the knowledge you need to interact with the rest of the system. Because they are so similar, we do have a handful of different colors, but each module is not a different color. So anything that is kind of on the financial side of the system is going to be green, right? If it's typically directly linked to, let's say, a company record, which could be a customer, for example, it's going to have this purple color. So we don't have every color in the rainbow. We've half a dozen or so, and that's really just so that it's a little bit easier for users to orient themselves. It's amazing how the subconscious mind works in that regard. You'll see purple, and based on the handful of modules you use, you'll know where it is, kind of, you know, out of the corner, where you are out of the corner of your eye. So each module has a default view. When I open this module, I get 4 records. That's because, actually, let me use a feature we're going to see. That's because I'm the assigned account manager, right? So this particular module is saying find company records where I'm the account manager or I'm the sales rep, for example, and show me that list. So if you're a new user to a new discovery system, your list is probably going to be empty. It's probably going to look like this because you have not been assigned to any of the sample data. That doesn't mean there's no data. If you're coming in for your second session, it doesn't mean all of your data has been deleted. In fact, whatever that default view is a subset of the total, right? But just be aware that every module has a default view and that's the basis for what you're seeing. So in the company's module, you're going to see any records to which you've been assigned. In the line item codes module, you'll see all active line item codes. So these are the records that you're likely to be using for test purposes. Other modules have different rules. It just depends on the module. So let's talk about what you have here in the list view. So this top section is what we call the quick search. It's a great way to quickly search. Such a creative name. So I just searched for parts here where the preferred vendor is low price home, right? We could search for all of our codes with a type of plumbing, right? So you can see how this works. For common searches, we've added these, what we call quick search links. So anyone dealing with inventory is often working with inventoried items. They just want to see a subset of inventoried items. So in a manufacturing context, you may have assemblies, you may have labor codes, you may have expenses, right, for airfare and all sorts of things. Inventoried items are a specific beast, and managing inventory is a real challenge for most businesses. That's in fact why they buy aACE. So that's all a long way of saying that we put this link here so that users could just quickly find inventoried items, which finds both the inventoried item record type as well as the inventoried assembly item record type. Managing replenishment is also a common activity. And while we have a lot of tools for automating that, and we have a whole webinar on just that subject, a lot of people want to just kind of see what's going on. So you can click find items requiring replenishment, and that will reduce your list to just items where for one of the locations, the current total balance is below the replenishment threshold, right? Similarly, find sales entry line item codes. These are the codes that are going to appear on the drop-down value list in quotes and in orders and things like that. So these are all quick search links, and they vary depending on the module. So as you might imagine in the invoices module, right? Find my open and pending invoices. I don't have any that are assigned to me. Find open and pending invoices, that finds 5. Find open, that finds 4. Find past due, that finds 3, right? Based on due dates. So these vary for each module. Okay. If you can't find what you need in the quick search, or in the quick search links, we have, I'm going to actually use a different module for this demo. Every module has the advanced search. So in these little drop-down arrows, right, you'll get additional options. It's kind of anywhere you see this, either this upward facing actions or this downward arrow, right? We have additional options. So this arrow next to that search icon contains in every module an action option called Go to Advanced Search. This is going to give you a lot more fields and a lot more search opportunities. This is my favorite feature in aACE, and I say that to you as a user of software. We use other packages, and they all want to give me one field where I get to put in something, and it's going to be smart. And the result is I get a bunch of crap I don't need. With aACE, you have the advanced search. If you want to look for customers where their default shipping address is going to a particular city, you can do so. And that's a big win from our perspective, right? So you can see here how many different options there are. If I want to search for customers in the state of Ohio, I can do this, hit perform find, and here we are. These are customers in the state of Ohio. In that same area, here's an oft overlooked feature. Up here, we can see recent finds. So I can select this, and it's going to put back customer in Ohio. If I wanted to save this, I could select that and say customers in Ohio. Hit save, right? So now this is a saved search. And tomorrow when I come in, it'll be here. 2 weeks when I come in, it'll be here. So this is a great way for you to save common searches. Doesn't require calling us, requires 5 seconds or less of your time. It's a very easy thing to do. Be aware in these views that you have a lot of operators that you can insert. Those operators are here. So you can match a whole word, you can match the entire field, you can find duplicate values. We have different symbols for dates and ranges. It's worth familiarizing yourself with these because they're very, very handy. What I didn't list here, but it's worth being aware of. I don't want to demo it today, but it's worth being aware of. You can build and or searches. You can also constrain found sets, extend found sets. There's a lot more functionality in this area that's a little bit beyond the basics. So for today, be aware that you can come into the advanced search. You can search by lots of different things. You can save and you can restore, but there's a lot more than you can do. So take that knowledge with you for future training sessions. When you're in your list view, you can, let me find all customers. Actually, I'll illustrate a feature. Let's find customers in California and let's add to the current list, right? Okay, so now we've got customers in 2 states. When I'm in a list view, if I want to sort, I just click the label. And so this is my list of customers in Ohio and California sorted by name. If I want to sort by this value, I can do so. If it's a value that is potentially shared, such as type or state, you'll get these sub-summaries. These are really, really, really handy. Sorting summary. Let me just show real quick where this comes into play. Just so often. I go to invoices, I say find and open invoices, I sort by customer. Boom, voila. We've got our AR balance by customer. 2 seconds. You can imagine how much customers appreciate that. And then people say, okay, I've got this list, it's carefully constructed and it's sorted the way I want it. Can I print it? Absolutely. You say print this view and you get a beautiful PDF. So that on-screen sorting and summarizing is used in many, many ways. It's often used for just on-demand analytics like you saw. Okay. Also be aware down here that we can jump from a list. So I found customers in California and Ohio. Okay. That's my found set. These related records options allow me to go from a list to another module, but only considering related records. So if I say, let me go to related contacts, these are going to be contacts in my system that are related just to these customers. Let me sort by name so we can kind of see that a little bit better, right? Brightside, full steam, high bridge, Kings, right? You get the point, right? Shay. So this is super handy because a lot of times you might find a customer list that's based on some very specific criterion, and then you might want to say, well, let me see related orders, right? And then let me see from their related orders, their related, order items, or their related shipments, or whatever the case may be. So you can see how you can jump from one module to another module. And now we're in here and we can sort and summarize and do all the things that you've just seen. What this does is essentially it's adding the advanced search for related modules, like to other modules. Because I can do it in the other direction. I can say, you know what, let's find everybody who's ordered a particular product where, I don't know, the manufacturer is something. Siemens. We could start there and we could go back up the list, and then we could narrow it down. We could go back around. We call that ability drill down and drill around, and our customers love it because like an accountant, for example, can find a debit. Let's just do this real quick. Right, let's find any transactions this month. Okay. So here's a few. From here, I can drill down and drill around in all sorts of ways. Right, here's the purchase for this particular product. Right, here's an invoice. Okay, so within a list, so you've constructed your list. There are lots of ways to construct a list, more than we can even talk about today. You might do that for a variety of reasons. Maybe you want a number, like we saw. Maybe you want to print it, or maybe you want to update something, right? So maybe let's see who the account manager is for these customers. It's all Mara Harvey. You're moving, you're changing territories. Mara Harvey is no longer going to be the account manager for these customers. Instead, we're going to have the account manager be me. So inside of this, so the new button is for creating a new record. We'll see that in a minute. But inside of edit, we can do a bunch of different things. Let's go ahead and update the account manager for this list. So let's choose me. Okay. Oh, now it's me. Since we did that, when I come back into my list, we can see I've now got 12 records instead of 4, right? So you can see that default view in action. But be aware that the edit option up here contains common edit actions. The delete allows you to delete. You have to confirm the found set, and each record will be validated. So you can't delete things, can't delete records that are used. The print shows some print options. This will vary depending on the module, right? So everything is module specific in aACE, right? So the invoices module has aging reports, for example. Actions is going to contain this one, send notice regarding the list, status changes, imports and exports, and then processes that are specific to the module. So the companies has some processes for creating leads and adding records to mailing lists, whereas the database that contains your inventoried items is going to have processes for replenishment. So that's the sort of thing that you'll find in the actions menu. The admin gear down here contains actions that are a little bit sensitive. Actions that really you only want system administrators to be running. This whole gear can be hidden. This whole gear is subject to an access privilege. And we have our system admin webinar covers this a little bit more in depth. But you can see here that some of these actions are just a little more sensitive. Someone who doesn't know what they're doing could cause harm. And we don't want you having to call us to have you, to get our help to restore data. Okay, so that's that. Let's look at notices real quick. So let's pull these four. This is the omit button that you're seeing. Let's pull those vendors out of the list, and let's say send notice regarding list. I'm going to send a notice to Erin, right? And now I'm just going to tell her I updated this list of customers to have me as the AM rather than Mara. So I'm going to send this notice. She's going to get on the other end the message, and I've got some other notices in the system, right? But she's going to receive a message from me, and it's going to contain a link. That link is going to take her right back to that list of records. So play with this in your discovery system. It is extraordinarily helpful because it gets people out of email. You'd be amazed at how many times errors occur because someone's like, okay, there's an issue regarding these 3 invoices, and someone's using their keypad to type an invoice ID, and then it's the wrong record. And if you're shaking your head, it's this sort of stuff happens all the time, right? This allows the notices engine, which can be sent for a list or for an individual record, allows people to share data with one another without having to write down IDs and send emails and things of that sort. Those events are also stored with the record, right? So Erin, I'm seeing that maybe for some of our demo data, we want to clear up some of these billing approval notices. It went quite a while before someone approved them, but I can see that they did get approved. But hey, good sort of impromptu demo. Notices tell a story. Look, they had an anniversary. They had an important date that went to Mara, and here, Denise wasn't doing her job, and then Caitlin wasn't doing her job, and we'll see if Erin does her job.
Thanks so much.
This is all demo data. No one's not doing their job. This is all fake, just FYI. But you can also send a notice for a particular record. You can schedule them to notices to be sent in the future as well. So you can send a notice to yourself. Send yourself a reminder. Why not? Super cool feature. Okay, let's talk about the detail view. Inside of so after you get your list, oftentimes you're going to want to work with a specific record. This is the detail view. Obviously, the detail view varies a lot depending on the data, but just like the list views, it conforms to the same conventions. I mean, if you know how to use one, you know how to use the next. I'm going to click into edit mode. Let's see what I have noted here. Okay, so required fields are going to be pink, right? And then once we enter a value, they're no longer pink, right? The idea there is to draw your attention to fields that require your draw your focus to fields that require your attention. How's that sound? If I hit save and a required field is empty, I will get a message. What did I do there? Oh, it put it back to the default contact. Oh, that's cool. There's a feature there. Let's just sort of demo that. If I create a new record, right? So here's a new record. Those 2 fields are required. I can leave this blank and it will inherit the default contact, right? So pretty neat. But if I try to save this with one of those fields empty, I will receive this kind of an error. Okay, so let's go into selectors. So let's say I wanted to change the account manager for this one record to someone else. That's what these little magnifying glass icons are. We call them lupas. That's a Spanish word for magnifying glass. Just so much shorter and easier than magnifying glass. So we call them lupas. If you select that, you will get what we call a selector. And you've already seen me interact with this a few times. So we can apply Martin here as the account manager. Right. Okay, go to buttons. We've already seen these in action, but let's, it's part of the drill down, drill around feature. But these little rightward facing chevrons, those are go-to buttons, and you'll see them adjacent. You'll see them to the left of the data you're going to, or in the case of labels, you'll see them up here. So let me just scroll this list. Okay, here we go. Right, that's going to take me to Brightside. This is the customer who referred them. And here's the contact who referred Wolstein, right? So all of these little guys are go-to buttons. Right? And you'll see that here. You're probably already just picking up a lot of conventions based on seeing me navigate. This little globe icon, by the way, just takes you back to the menu. Okay, so let's look at the log. Let's find that record I edited. Okay, boom. And let's go actions, view logs. Look at all this good stuff. So we can see I updated the account manager twice, from Mara to me, and then from me to Martin. And it looks like we have, it looks like we sent the customer a card. Looks like we were changing the group. Looks like they were approved. Let's see how many notices that took. Oh, this is the one that took all those notices. So who actually did that work? Denise James did. Okay. So she came back and did it. That's pretty cool. So anyways, you can see how this log works. Hugely, hugely, hugely valuable. We often joke in demos that people spend 3 hours a day following up, 3 hours a day being followed up on, and then the rest doing actual work. And it's kind of a joke. Everyone laughs, but everyone's kind of like, someone's kind of right. If we can just cut out the follow-up by giving people visibility into what's occurred and when, and by whom, and if we can give them tools for communicating with their coworkers, like that send notices feature, then we can generate a huge ROI for your organization, just kind of like right out of the gate, and that's our goal. But that's why these very basic features, and you've seen me move through the system very quickly today and interact with things that we haven't even discussed. That's why they're so valuable and so important, because your users, your power users, you know, they're going to say, you know what, let me compare. We might need to deduplicate these. What's going on here? So let me look at this guy and let me look at this guy. You know, what's the difference here? Right. Right. So I'm going to, you know, do some analysis. So there's a little bit of a different, there was some duplicate data. So this is maybe a little bit better in some cases. This looks like this actually looks like it's a better record. So I might want to come over here and might want to do the move all related records to the other one so that then I can delete this and deduplicate. These kinds of abilities, these kinds of features, and by the way, I don't think I said and pointed this out, but you can open a new window by holding down the shift key. Right. These kinds of features really are game changers for your everyday users, which means they are game changers for your decision makers too. Because once your users perceive, and once you perceive your software as an ally and not as an enemy, lots of things begin to change in a positive way. So, all right, I promised Aaron and Ashley that I would go quickly today, since this is the basics webinar and we don't want to scare everyone away with a 90-minute webinar.
Oh God.
I think I got through most of the content that we typically cover in this webinar. Did I miss anything, or do you have any questions for me? Or were there any questions for me along the way?
Doesn't look like any questions. I think you covered everything basics wise. There's so much that I think we honestly could talk about it all day. I know you could, Michael, so but yeah.
Okay, well, on that note, let me just point this out. We just in the last couple of months have created this website, showme.asoft.net. This is an online database. This is not a website that the marketing team produced. This is an online database where you can see recent webinars. Well, not even recent, just you can see webinars that we posted in the past. You can click into them. You can watch the full webinar. This is our most recent one, so it doesn't have subtopics yet. But shortly, we'll have subtopics for that webinar. And so you can jump to specific topics as well. You can share the page and things of that sort. So we have dozens and dozens of hours of webinars available to you on the website. So when Aaron said we could talk all day, that is a literally true statement. We could go
talk about it all
24 hours straight and still not cover everything. So if you want to spend the next 24 hours straight consuming aACE information, you're certainly welcome to, and we've given you the resources to do so.
Good weekend plans if you're bored. There is a question though, Michael. Ashley, did you want to read that or do you want me to?
Oh, let's see. Yeah, either. Let's see. Are there other shortcut keys like the shift key showed?
Yes. So that's a question from a power user. I can tell that that's like the first question from power users. So that's a great one. Command F takes me to find. Right. Didn't use my. Does Command R work here? No, it doesn't. That's interesting. Command N will create a new record. Command E goes into edit mode. So let me just use. So what is it? Option. Yeah. So option right arrow takes me in. Right. Let me see. Command down takes me up and down, right? So there are quite a few of them. I'm sort of working from memory here for the purposes of the demo, but if you want to know what they are, you can actually just look here. This is going to tell you the action as well as the key command.
Do we have I think we have a help guide with that too, don't we?
I'm sure we do. Let's go here and do key commands.
Yep.
aACE key commands.
There's a lot.
Yeah. So great question and hopefully a great answer.
I think the wrong answer, there's only one, and I think it would be no, and that's not the case. So I think we did great.
Cool.
All right. Well, then I guess we'll wrap up. That's all for today, but we hope to see you next Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern time. Before we wrap up, I'd like to thank all of you for attending and for sharing your questions. You will get a link to this recording so you can watch it again or share it with colleagues who were not able to join us today. If you think of any questions that we did not cover, you can always reach out to us at sales@acesoft.com and we'll be happy to get you an answer. You can also sign up for future webinars at acesoft.com/webinars. Thanks again, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your week.
Have a good weekend, everyone.
Thank you.